What's going on, everyone? Thought I'd show you what I'm working on today. I've got this Freesky Swift Horse e-bike, right? And it's a full suspension bike, but the rear suspension is pretty stiff for me. I weigh 180 pounds. I have a hard time springing this suspension. I don't get much movement out of it. So, being that it's a non-adjustable shock in there, I decided I'm going to replace it. So I went on Amazon and I purchased what I think is a softer shock. I'll link it below so you know what I got. But I'm going to try to pop this in there today. And I should say, I am not a professional whatsoever. I don't use this as a expert tutorial. I just thought maybe it'd be fun for you guys to see or interesting to watch how regular Joe does this in his garage. So we're gonna try to pop this in there today with no knowledge of really how to do it and see how it goes. Hopefully, I believe it's the correct length. I know I got that right, but the ends, they are definitely different widths than what's in there. So I'm gonna have to do some cutting of the spacers, but let's give it a shot and see where we end up. All right, so here's what we're working with on the Swift Horse. There's your rear suspension shock. And if you look right there, you can kind of see how much travel I'm getting out of the shock, which is not much. It's like maybe half an inch of travel. So it does a little bit to make the ride smoother, but not a lot. And this is non-adjustable, so there's no making it any softer. That's why we went out and we got this one right here. It says 650 pound is the rating on it, and it does have the ability to be adjusted. It's not an air shock though, just coil shock. It says on it, coil and oil. So this is what we're gonna try and see if this is hopefully softer. But what I was talking about with the spacing is I got my digital caliper out here, which makes things pretty easy. And the ends of these parts right here, one will fit perfectly there. That's the right width, but the back one, if you look right here, you got these like plastic spacers right there. And this piece, the end of the shock, is like 10 millimeters narrower on that. So I'm gonna have to cut like 5 millimeters off each one of those spacers to fit this thing in here. And then when I release this thing, I mean, you just pop this bolt and this bolt. So I gotta believe the back end's gonna wanna crash inward, right? So I think I'm gonna put like some zip ties around here. That way they'll run into the seat post, and hopefully that'll keep the back end from just collapsing while I work on it and get the new shock in there. So let's get rolling. Okay, I mean, there you go. The zip tie worked perfectly. It held it right in the correct spot, so that was good. Let's do the front part. Here we go. She's out. Now here's some close-ups for you. This is the old shock. This is the new shock. They appear to be the same exact length, so we're all good to go there. The problem becomes the widths. Now, this and this are pretty much identical, right? That's an exact match. No modification needed there. This end, on the other hand, is going to need some work. So this is how the original setup. You got these spacers on each side. The bolt goes through and pins it into the bike, right? So we're going to have to cut these spacers. You can see I've already got them marked. They're about 5 millimeters. I'm going to cut off each side because this piece of the shock is like way thinner than this. It's like 10 millimeters thinner. So we're going to have to remove some material off these spacers. No big deal. Hacksaw should take that right off. All right, I got a big update for you here with some good news. It should make this a lot simpler. No cutting is going to be needed, because what I found is, these were drastically different widths. I was going to have to cut all the spacers. No, these pieces here and the tube inside there are removable. Yeah, I didn't know that. So I started pushing this pin out. So once that's out, everything should fit perfectly. I mean, this is going to end up being pretty much the same width. So I shouldn't have to cut anything. All I have to do is finish pushing this piece out, and everything should go together just as the stock one did. So I'm excited about that. No cutting or anything needed. All right, we're in business. As soon as I pop this little piece out of the center of the shock, all the stock hardware fit perfectly. Right here, you got your spacers, the silver tube that goes through. No cutting, nothing. Everything stock fits perfectly into the shock. All that's left is to bolt it in the bike. Well, here's our finished product. I think it looks pretty good in there. Really simple to do. I mean, just 2 bolts. Remove this bolt and that bolt, switch all the hardware over to the new shock, and you're done. And this one's got a little adjustment in it. So you spin this dial here, I guess for compression, and then you got a rebound adjustment knob there. But the true test is going to be how much more movement do I get out of this spring. Let's do some comparisons. Well, it's definitely got more movement. It feels a little bit softer, which is going to help with the ride quality. I would not classify it as super plush though. Some bikes just have a ton of travel and it's so smooth. And I think that's probably because that's a cheap shock. I mean, was like 70 bucks for that shock. If you want an amazing ride quality, you're probably going to get what you pay for. You're probably going to have to buy a really nice adjustable air shock to really get a plush, comfy ride. But this is better. I'll take it. I just wanted a little bit extra softness in the suspension, and we got there with this. So good change. Hope you found it interesting to watch. If you did, consider hitting subscribe. Come back for more. Thanks.